Alright, Schlockmeisters fans, we're going to watch a movie I've never seen before. It's called, I don't know how to pronounce this movie. It's got 7 S's in it. Let's check it out. Strother Martin plays Dr. Stoner. He's selling a specimen to a freak show carnival guy.
I'm sure he will get a good home. Yeah, pretty easy. I just lie around all day, you know.
His contemporary and rival, Dr. Daniels.
Young student would be willing to help me this summer. If I had someone working for you. I did have.
He's looking for a student. That student is David, Dirk Benedict.
Yes, David. Yes, I'm Dr. Stoner. The herpetologist? A herpetologist, yes. I'm into snakes.
This is Stoner's daughter, Christina, played by Heather Menzies.
This is my daughter, Christina. Christina, this is David Blake. Hi.
Yeah, I can already sense a romance. They use all real snakes in this film, including the King Cobra.
The King Cobra, the most dangerous of all living creatures.
Well, the doctor keeps injecting him with things that he says are an immunization, and those injections cause him to hallucinate, have funky dreams. Bank knocks him out for a couple of days, but he wakes just in time to see the snake show that they put on.
To witness one of the most dangerous demonstrations in the history of modern science.
He basically demonstrates how to grab a cobra and extract venom from it. That head grab there is the only scene in the movie where they didn't use a real snake.
In the extraction process, the snake secretes its venom voluntarily. And by this method, a snake can be kept healthy and producing venom for many years.
A few days later, David's brushing his teeth and he notices that his skin is peeling.
It's a perfectly natural reaction to COBRA inoculation. I just wish you'd told me about it before.
David's about to make his move on Christina.
Hey, let's go for a swim.
Don't be silly. We didn't bring our suits.
Doesn't bother me if it doesn't bother you.
She's a little hesitant at first, but she jumps in with him. Next thing you know, they're at the carnival together, and the romance is blossoming. And then we recognize the guy, the carnival barker here is the guy who was buying that specimen for Dr. Stoner earlier.
Is not real, alive, and as presented, will receive $1,000 in cash.
Well, David goes in and Christina doesn't, and David is treated to what appears to be a snake man. A bully then picks a fight with David. It's one of his fellow students that they were arguing with earlier in the film. That's Red Brown, the actor. Red Brown went on to play Captain America a few years later, and here he is watching the stripper. He's getting all revved up, and he's thinking about Christina. Christina is talking to her pet snake and getting ready for bed, and here comes trouble.
What the hell are you doing here? Get out! Get out! Get out!
Well, unfortunately, her pet died after getting into that tussle with Steve.
And live with animals. They are so placid.
Dad decides to get revenge on Steve by placing a black mamba in his shower after sneaking into his dorm. And Captain America is going to get bit on the foot and die moments later. Daddy's worried.
Maybe not early enough. You and David seem to be getting along well together.
See, he knows things she doesn't.
I don't think that's any of your business.
You don't understand. consequences of what you're doing. I want you to promise me you won't have intercourse with her.
I don't think you have the right to ask me that.
Well, David's really changing now. Remember that snake man in the carnival? Some similarities. He's getting there. Stoner keeps it going, though. Dr. Daniels comes by and snoops. He ties him up, or chains him up, puts a key in each one of those tanks and says, one of them has a deadly snake, one of them doesn't. You gotta find the right key to get out. He actually does retrieve the key, but then he doesn't see the, I guess it's a python. This boot is the last we see of Dr. Daniels. That snake won't eat for a while. Christina sneaks in to see the snake man and recognizes it as Tim, the former lab assistant.
The final agony of your whole life is a puny human. And the beginning of your new existence. A new existence for all mankind.
And David's pretty much completely turning into a snake at this point.
A new life.
In fact, he's morphed into a king cobra.
A bright, clean, new life.
He takes one of the other cobras outside where he promptly gets bit. And that's the end of good old Dr. Stoner. As Christina returns, the mongoose has gotten loose and is attacking David / Snake. She finds her dad.
Dad! Dad! Oh no! Oh no! Dad, I saw Tim!
The cops show up, and Mongoose and Cobra are still fighting. And the movie kind of ends ambiguously. All right, let's talk about this movie. First of all, let's talk about the title here. Now, when I was a kid growing up, there was a guy in my neighborhood, or a few blocks away. He was my dad's age, actually, and his name was John. Yeah, rest in peace, John. And he had cerebral palsy, and he was a little bit cognitively impaired, but he was a good dude, and everybody liked John. He managed to. He always used to hang around with a lot of kids in the neighborhood. Just loved hanging around John. He lived with his mother, and he had tons of Atari games, more than anybody else at that time. He was the first person I knew who had a VCR. He was just a cool guy to hang around with. So as the years went on, and I got to know John a little better, and I was getting into movies myself, he would always talk about a couple of movies that he always wanted to get again: House on Haunted Hill, and this movie called Hiss, which he talked about. Now, I had movie books and stuff, and he always talked about this movie Hiss, and I'd look it up. There was nothing in any of my books about a movie called Hiss. Couldn't figure it out. Then one day I stumbled upon this title, SSSSSSS, in Leonard Maltin's book, and in his description, he said it's pronounced Hiss. So I went to John. I'm like, John, that movie Hiss you're talking about, how is that spelled HISS? And he's like, no, it's SSSSSS. Like, oh shit, John, why don't you tell me this years earlier? I could have figured this out. But anyway, that's the movie. Now, according to John and according to Leonard Maltin, the movie is pronounced Hiss. Now, is that right? I don't know. If you watch the trailer of this movie, they talk about, say it, don't spell it, or I can't remember exactly what they said, but, and all you hear is the hiss of the snake, but it's not like they're pronouncing it either. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm going to go with hiss, but I guess I don't know for sure. Maybe it's just hiss. Who the hell knows? Anyway, the movie itself, I'd never seen it before until today. I've owned this DVD for probably 20 years. I really enjoyed this movie. It was a lot of fun. Dirk Benedict, Strother Martin, and Heather Menzies Urich, actually, she married Robert Urich shortly after this, I think, or around this time. I don't know. But anyway, we have this herpetologist, Strother Martin, who's into snakes and stuff, and Dr. Stoner. He lives with his daughter, played by Heather Menzies. and they run like a snake show periodically, and he sells venom to various pharmaceutical companies, that sort of thing. He's a snake man. Um, he goes to this college where he's got grants from, and basically acquires a student to help out for the semester because his previous student disappeared or is gone or something. So he ends up getting Dirk Benedict, who plays David in this movie. Well, he starts injecting him with this thing. He keeps saying it's sort of like a immunization in case he gets bit by snakes, which can happen because he's got a lot of snakes here. King cobras, black mambas. He's got some nasty snakes, you know. First of all, David starts romancing the daughter, and then also he starts to change. All these injections that Dr. Stoner is giving him aren't to immunize him; they're to turn him into a snake. So he slowly turns into a snake. His skin starts to peel. He starts to turn green. He gets scaly, and near the end of the movie, he actually turns into an actual like king cobra. Turns out the previous assistant, this guy named Tim, had been sold because he was turned into a snake also. He got sold to a freak show, and his daughter happened to run into that at a freak show, saw it, and she recognized him as, oh my God, that's Tim. He hadn't fully transformed into a snake, and he still had some human qualities to it. So she freaks out. She goes back home, and then she finds her father at this point has been killed by a king cobra. David has turned into a king cobra himself, and he, as the king cobra, he's fighting a mongoose that got loose, and then the police show up and they kill one of the king cobras, and then they're gonna go after David as the king cobra, and Heather Menzies screams David's name, and then the film kind of freeze frames, and we don't know what happened. We don't know what the fates are of these two, but apparently Dr. Stoner had this plan to this was going to be the new evolution of mankind. They were going to be like snake people, and they'd be able to survive pollution and stuff, and they're going to mate, and I don't know what the hell. He was nuts. But anyway, that's his. So anyway, again, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a hell of a lot of fun. I'm sorry I didn't see this film a lot earlier. It's been 40 years in the making for me to see this film because I knew about this in the mid 80s, I guess, almost 40 years. But yeah, so anyway, I got this DVD. I put this out Paramount, I think. Yeah, I think. But yeah, it's a fun movie. A couple very brief nude scenes from Heather Menzies. In fact, they really made her up to look nerdy in this movie with those big, thick glasses because she was an attractive woman. She was in Playboy, actually, and right around the same time this movie was released. So yeah, anyway, yeah. Quite a film. A lot of snakes. Apparently, they did use real snakes in this movie, real king cobras. The only scene where they didn't use a real snake was when Strother Martin grabbed the snake by its head at one point. But other than that, they used real snakes. So, wow, I don't know if I could have done this movie because I don't like snakes. So anyway, that's the movie, Hiss or Hiss. You should definitely see this movie. It's a lot of fun. I will leave a link down to below for Blue. I think this has been released on Blu-ray. If not, I'll leave a link to the DVD. But you should definitely check this one out. It's fun, good movie. Watch it. Leave some comments. Let me know what you think about Hiss.